Steve, how surprised are you there isn't a win total higher than that on the board?
Not necessarily. I'm like, even with the extra regular season game that is now started last year, how many teams improved drastically? Like, what team do you feel confident? Like, all right, well, this team's going to go over at 11.5 wins because there's so many good teams in the league right now with all the moves that have been made. Like you talk about, the every team feels like they're making a huge splash at this point. Like, I can't even name all the teams that have made improvements because it's basically half the league except the Jets. Like, every team is doing something to improve in some sort of way. So 11.5, like, there are some teams that are absolutely going to go over, and obviously the two teams that we mentioned are in the mix there, but there is just so many guys that have moved around and so many pieces, so many chess pieces have moved in the NFL that it's almost hard to keep up and figure out who's where and what team is gonna win over 11.5 games. So I'm not surprised by this. There are obviously going to be teams that we're going to take the over on this number on, but as it's set right now, and we don't even know what the draft looks like yet, how that shakes out. So that's going to obviously change some things too as well.
Reid, it's a real Queen's Gambit situation out here.
Ooh, I like that. Nice reference. A better April Fool's joke would have been Brandon Glass Sheen next guest on the Unreasonable Odd podcast.
Right.
Definitely. But, I digress. But Steve's right. To what he's saying on the other side is that look at the two teams that have the highest win total, right? It's the Bills, right? I think they're at the top there, and the Bucks. And theoretically, those teams haven't changed, right? Their core offenses are still essentially the same. Look, you add some pieces on the defensive side for Buffalo and Von Miller. You add some pieces a little bit here and there for the other teams, but the parity in the NFL is massive. Now, if you take it from a quantitative standpoint of the teams that made it to the Super Bowl and then what they did next year, because those are that's probably the most surprising, right? If you take a look at those teams, the average in terms of the win percentage for that following season is 75%, with New England and those teams and Kansas City being the highest of the wins next year when those teams basically didn't change, right? That would put us at someone like Kansas City or someone like these other teams going up to like 13 wins or so, or the Rams, for instance. I think the Rams are at 10.5 right now on the DK Sportsbook. So just based off of that, right, and their team kind of staying the same. Look, they lose Robert Woods, and we'll still see if OBJ comes, but you add Bobby Wagner. That's the one team that I thought would be a little bit higher, but I'm with Steve here. I don't think any team right now should be over 11.5. If any one of those teams should be, I think it might be the Rams.